So welcome on board on this class. This is Q&A number 2 with me, Pak Marcus, for school management class. And here we go, we have a couple of questions to answer. The first question has come from Ricky, Romosarsa and Tian. So the question the first one is, what do you think about homeschooling? And does the National Board of School need accreditation too? So here we go. So what do you think? What do I think about homeschooling? Well, I have a mixed feeling anyway. Personally, I don't want to send my kid to homeschooling. Why? Because education is a complex enterprise. You will never simplify education as a mastery of knowledge or concepts. Education is always situated in social context, and children need to learn to get along with others. They will learn how to experience joy and play with others. They also need to learn what it feels to be bullied, for example, and how to come to terms with such a bad experience. They need to learn compassion, and only when they are with others, they do things together. And it is very clear that homeschooling does not create an ample room for children to get along with others for an extended period of time. However, some children may need specific needs that will only be satisfied through homeschooling. And I'm certainly able to tolerate a decision of parents who want their children to be homeschooled. Well, that's the first question, and the answer for the first question. And then the next question is, does homeschooling need to be accredited? I don't think so. Homeschoolers will follow certain tests to earn graduation certificates. And we have packet A, packet B or packet C, which are comparable to school certificates. The second question have come from Luther, Sheila and Desti. So the question is, what school posting concept for schools that will have a positive impact on the school and its students? And why is it mentioned as the first step? So this is referring to the lesson plan that we have in school management class. This is very evident that school posting is a mechanism where students of education faculty, like you are, will be assigned to observe some schools. These students will pay attention to certain issues such as the school culture, that is, how school people relate to each other, what common activities done in the school are, and what major policies and norms are. Why do you, as students of education faculty, need to directly observe the school activities? And it is based on the beliefs that learning requires a set of complex processing. Learning is not merely a cognitive activity where students will memorize facts or concepts. Learning is social by nature. The students need to learn how to appreciate what others feel, think, need, and expect. Learning is not merely done through reading or discussion in classes, but it also requires experiential encounters with reality. It is through observations in the schools that you will draw connections across various issues. It is believed that combining activities in class and school observations will make you a better student. So that's the second question, and we are now about to discuss and to answer this third question from Lasuardi, Ave and Dion. So the question says as follows. School accreditation itself is obtained from school values, and the pragmatic goals to be achieved are determined from this accreditation. What if the files or documents are not there in school, either lost, burned, or because of untidy storage? How will the accreditation of the school be measured? Or do schools have to request resubmissions in order to assess the accreditation? Here is my answer. So all documents and files are important to the schools, and they must be safely secured. In accreditation process, there is no way for the school to fail to provide documents and files that are required. Like it or not, documents and files are, as evidence, must be present. At the moment, we have got the facilities through the adoption of digital storage systems. Schools must be skillful enough at utilizing existing technologies to keep all important documents and files to be secured. So here we go, that everything must be present. If lost or burned, there should be some kind of replacement to make them available. So we are now having the next question from Icha, Anna, Lintang, and Rosa. So the question is as follows. What are the standards of the international school accreditation? Are they the same as regular school and following the mandatory curriculum? That's a very good question. So here is my response. There are two different approaches to accreditation. And two most prominent approaches are process-based and outcomes-based. In the process-based accreditation, the focus is to assess whether the process of learning and whether the school management run well or not. So a case in point, the process-based accreditation, the focus is on the input of the schooling. So for example, whether the school has enough infrastructure or not, whether the teachers are well qualified or not, those are referring to the process-based accreditation. Now, what happens with the outcome-based accreditation? The focus is to answer such a question. Do the learning process and school operations, that means management, lead to the growth of students' learning? So the focus is whether the students really demonstrate the learning outcomes that are promised by the school. So here, there are different ways of doing with regards to international school accreditation and depending on the institutions. And there are a couple of accreditation bodies that offer the accreditation services. The standards vary, but in recent years, the focus is on the outcomes-based education. The outcome-based accreditation refers to whether students reach learning or not. So the focus is more on those qualities. The next question has come from Miguel, Nori, and Tias. The question is it true that the education standards in Indonesia are the same, or they are adjusted to the surrounding conditions? Then if, for example, the standards are not the same, can education in Indonesia be advanced? So this is a very good question with regards to the concept of standards. So here's the case. First, education standards are not easily understood. Why? We have problems with definition. People may have their own conceptions. To simplify the complexity, let's bring forward the two types of standards. It should be number 2. The first one is the standards that refer to uniformity of measurement. And this is the example. To be admitted to ACMIL, Academy Military 2020, there are a couple of prerequisites, including 2 as follows. First, the height at least 163 centimeters. Okay, if you are below 163 centimeters, then you are not admitted. And the second one is unmarried and ready to be unmarried at least throughout the education and 1 year after the education is accomplished. That is the definition, the first type of standards, the definition of standards. It refers to the uniformity of measurements. So, and the second type is different from the first one. The second type refers to the basic components required to accomplish things. So, for example, in the sistem penjaminan mutu universitas, they must follow the cycles called PPEPP. So, penetapan standar, pelaksanaan standar, evaluasi standar, pengendalian standar, peningkatan standar. That's the components. There are 5 basic components required in one particular penjaminan mutu or quality assurance office. But one particular university may have different ways of doing each individual step. For example, in penetapan standar at Sanata Dharma, we will develop the standard from the collaboration between the quality assurance office with the collaboration with the rector and his team. Right, the penetapan standar will be starting with that group. But in other universities, they may be different. Penetapan standar may start from study programs, for example. They may come from faculty or from any other things. And related to the second part, pelaksanaan on the execution of standards. We have unique ways of doing things, right? Sanata Dharma has a unique way of accomplishing targets and activities, meaning that we will demonstrate different ways of doing things in comparison to other universities. So standards here refer to the basic components. They are not referring the uniformity of measurement. So the question is, who must decide the standards? Are they externally driven or internally driven? Well, to tell you the truth, that the external reference, the products of Badan Nasional Standar Pendidikan, is by nature to set the minimum criteria, so making all schools reach them pretty easily. While internally, so the internally driven, it is the community that needs to see constant improvements. And this is the ideal type of standards. Even without external pressure, an institution is supposedly trying to embrace new standards, and certainly higher ones. So this is the end of the video.